Good morning and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this lesson on, we'll call this personal communication, business communication. And what this communication is going to talk about is written communication through letters. And understand here that when a lot of the content that we'll be dealing with has to deal with sending letters, but a lot of the same concepts apply when it comes to electronic messages, electronic letters, so on and so forth as well. So with that in mind, the first document that we're going to be looking at here is the basic format of a business letter. All right. And there's several different ways to think about this, and there's several different opinions on this and what have you. But there are some basic rules of thumb. All right. And we're going to go over that with you here in just a minute. All right. So some of the things that you see here are, well, right here where you see my cursor at, it has the date. You want to make sure that you use the current date in which you write the letter, and that should be the first thing that appears here. Some people put it lower, and that's fine, but that should be there. Then the next thing you should see is the person to whom the letter is going to, and it's their complete address. Notice it's 3 lines here, and we'll talk more about that in my unit on U.S. Postal Address Standards here. But basically you got your name, the street, and the city, state, and zip. Then you have Dear So-and-so, who the person you are writing to, okay? Now some people choose to put the person who's writing the letter underneath it here before the greeting itself, and that is fine and acceptable. All right, in fact, that's what I'll be looking for. All right, this person chose to do that underneath here. All right, so just keep that in mind. Why am I showing you this? Because it has some good other information here as well. Okay, then you have some basic paragraphs, and notice the spacing here. There is no indentation. Right, it is straight lined up and aligned to the left. No double spacing, but there is a clear distinction between the paragraphs. All right, one line. All right. Then as you start looking here, you notice this space or this gap here, okay? That gap is for a handwritten signature, all right? So if this person, Miss Lease, who is writing the letter, chose to, she could sign her name here. However, in electronic mail, if you're not choosing and including your signature, simply put an additional space under sincerely and then the name itself. And if there's anything enclosed with the letter, all right? Notice a couple of the measurements here. All right, everything has a 1-inch margin. Margin is the space from the end of the printed page to the text itself. All right, there's a 1-inch margin here, a 1-inch margin there, a 1-inch margin there, and a 1-inch margin on the bottom itself. Okay, pretty easy to understand there. Okay, and then there's you can see how there's like one additional space, one space, one space, one space, or one line, one space, all that kind of good stuff. 4 lines if you're choosing to include the signature. It gives you enough room to write your signature in. And then if you have anything enclosed. All right. So let's look at a different way to look at this and consider this. And this is the business letter format. All right. Now, there is a couple things here that you'll notice slightly different, okay, with the other document I had just shown you. Okay. Notice the heading address here. All right. It says your city, state, and address. That's the person who the letter is coming from. Okay. Over on this other document, you saw that the person who was writing is there, and they included their address down there. I prefer to go this route. Okay. That way, the person who reads the letter knows who it is coming from. Okay. Now, notice here that they do not include a space. All right. If you're in my 7th grade class, the formatting like this is fine. If you are in my 8th grade class, I would expect an additional space before the date. Okay, so you need to have 3 lines here, right? It should be your name, your street address, your city, state, and zip. Again, I'll show you how to do that on the U.S. Postal Address Standards. There should be an additional line or an additional space, then the date, then a space like you see here, then the first and last name of the person you are writing, maybe their business, their street address, their city, state, and zip. All right, this top one is called the heading. The lower one is called the inside address. All right. Then you do your salutation, such as Dear So-and-so, Hello So-and-so, Greetings person, that kind of thing. Please, please, please never use "to whom this may concern." That is old school. We don't use that anymore in modern business. All right. My mother used that. Okay. And so that was acceptable, but you want to make it more personable and try to write to somebody itself. Now, if you don't have somebody to write to, then you could just simply put on manager. Dear manager, dear customer service representative, all right? That's the kind of thing, but make it as personable as you can. Please don't use sir or madam, okay? Again, that's old school, all right? But you should have a salutation in there, dear so-and-so, okay? Notice this, again, you do not want to indent when you are using business letters, okay? That is the standard in business letters and business writing, okay? Don't indent. All right. Next thing, this says when you're writing a persuasive letter, I would also say when you're writing an informative letter, because sometimes you're writing something to persuade somebody to do something, sometimes to inform them of something, okay? So keep that in mind. So this says persuasive, all right? Remember, the first rule is to know your audience. That's important, right? So you've got to know who you're writing to. So if you're writing to customer service, hopefully they have the authority to do what you're asking them to do, to make the decision in regards to something, okay? If you're asking for a donation in regards to a cause, okay, persuading them to give a donation, maybe customer service isn't the person to talk to. Maybe the owner, the manager, or the executive, okay? That sort of thing. Or maybe a person you know, all right? That way you know they have the authority to do something, all right? Because you know relatively what their authority would be. All right, I wouldn't go and demand if I had a problem at McDonald's, right, I probably wouldn't want to talk to the person at the front counter or in the back, right? I would want to speak to the manager. That way the problem can be addressed accordingly, right? Same thing. You got to know the audience, okay? All righty, let's see here. In a persuasive letter, you state your opinion or your feelings. I don't like that feelings word in business letters. I like to say your opinion or your ideas, right? Because, you know, it's a joke, right? So don't think of anything about it, right? It's just a joke here, right? But, you know, it's Mr. C, sometimes when I hear about and write about feelings, it's kind of like socks, right? Everybody has socks, and sometimes they smell funny, okay? So, yeah, having ideas, that's sustenance, that's business right there, right? So state your opinion or your ideas about something that is important to you after you've introduced yourself, right? Now, you want to sound as professional as possible. If you're writing something to persuade somebody, you want to sound as passionate about what you're writing about as possible. But you don't want to make the person feel small or tiny, right? Because, you know, if you try to, what they use the word belittle here, okay? If Mr. C gets a letter and it opens up and it says, "You are a stupid moron," Mr. C is going to be like, crumble, crumple, right? Forget about it, okay? So, yeah, you don't want to belittle somebody. You want to be professional. Your letter needs to address and have facts, reasons, examples, all right? So if it has facts, reasons, or examples, that's not feelings, those are ideas, right? Your letter needs to address the issues that your reader might have in their arguments. So maybe think about what they have to say about what you are writing to them, right? If you're trying to persuade them to do something, you might say, "Hey, I know a lot of people would think about this, but consider this." If you're trying to inform them of something, you would say something like, "Many people believe the idea that this, but this is the cause," okay? Now, in your second paragraph or your later paragraphs, okay, you need to have some sort of what I call a call to action, okay? Your call to action tells the reader what you want them to do. You've given them their information. Now, what do you want to have happen, all right? It takes care of the so what, if you will, right? As in, so what? What do you want me to do about it, right? As the reader, okay? So having the call to action helps that, all right? So in a second paragraph, you will have solutions, because without solutions, all right, you are only complaining or whining or just griping, all right? Offer assistance to solve any kind of problems, that sort of thing. And then, of course, remind the reader where they can contact you. Now, one of the most important things to remember here is, am I not recording? I should be recording. Yeah, I'm screen recording. I would have been really embarrassed if I wasn't recording. Okay, anywho, moving forward. One of the most important things you can remember is when you end your letter, okay, the final, well, greeting, not the greeting there, but when you're ending your letter there, okay, you want to make sure that you use something professional. I do not agree with what this sample has. Sincerely yours, Okay. It sounds like it's romantic. Okay. You wouldn't put love, right? You're there, right? Unless you're writing to somebody you love. Okay. So sincerely is fine. You know, concerned about the matter is fine. All right. Looking forward to hear back from you is fine. But sincerely yours, not good at all. Sounds too much like kissy, kissy, smoochy, smoochy to me. All right. And then finally, you want to make sure that you have your signature. Again, if you are signing your name on it because you're physically sending it out and you're going to put your name on there, make sure you add 4 lines, have a copy of your name, and then sign it. If you are doing this digitally, simply have your name below. All right. I hope that makes things clear for you as far as what should go on the device, or not on the letter itself. And that brings us to the end of this particular lesson.